The Crypto Markets Update is brought to you by KuCoin, the best place to find the next crypto gem.
Crypto's bouncing with equities, but will it last? Joining us now to discuss the crypto markets is Arpan Gautam. He's head of business at quant trading firm Dexterity Capital. Welcome, Arpan.
Hi, everyone. How are you? And happy Victoria Day to you.
And happy Patriots Day to you. So, as we were saying earlier, the price of Bitcoin has had a nice little bounce. The price of other cryptos had a little bounce with the equity markets, but there does seem to be a bearish overall sentiment. Is this current time in the green kind of a false hope for the markets? Do you see it kind of selling off over the next few weeks and months, or do you think that we've turned the corner?
So to be very honest, we're a market neutral firm. So we don't necessarily do fundamental trades, and we don't have very much sort of experience with fundamental analyses. We're probably, we like to say, some of the worst people to ask for fundamental analyses. But overall, I think that we share... Sorry, go ahead.
I would disagree, actually. The fact that you are market neutral doesn't mean that you don't have an opinion and you don't see it. But go on.
No, you're 100% right. But I think we do see, the same bearish marks in the market in terms of ratio of puts to calls, et cetera. And we share the sentiment that we think the market's probably not going to bounce back up this weekend. And frankly, the last weekend and things like that were probably not necessarily conclusive. We may see, I think, more of a sideways movement for the next couple of months, before there is a conclusion to the broader macroeconomic factors that are shaping the broader environment, not just crypto.
So tell me a little bit more about some of the market participants that you're seeing, and if there's been any change in the size of those of how they're participating. In other words, are you seeing, for instance, more certain types of institutional versus certain types of retail? And if so, what kind of what are you noticing about, let's say, trade size?
No, I think that's a great question. And I think that we've, as I think expected, seen over the last couple of weeks that retail flow has certainly slowed down. And I think that's usually expected in times of volatility, that the smaller, more sort of nimble investors like retail tend to pull back. Larger institutions tend to pick up or stay in the market just because they have longer decision periods. So we've certainly seen that. That's certainly expected, and we certainly expect that to both ebb and flow over the course of the next couple of weeks.
Were you guys invested in Terra Luna UST by any chance?
We don't disclose anything that we were invested in, but we are market neutral.
What do you think the fallout will be to the rest of the crypto market for, the short to long term because of this collapse?
I think that's a really interesting question. So I think that if we start with the long term, this is, I think, something similar to what a lot of traditional markets have gone through in the past. Right, crypto DeFi projects with sizable ambitions now understand that they need to ensure prioritization of things like security and resiliency, as opposed to overemphasizing growth. Right, and again, we saw something very similar a few years ago in the sort of the traditional startup VC space, where a lot of unicorns ended up getting caught being overly focused and overly rewarded by focus on top line growth versus unit economics and profitability. I think it's very, very similar to what you're seeing now with crypto projects, specifically DeFi protocols that overemphasize scaling and scalability and capturing market share versus a smaller emphasis on, let's say, security and resiliency. And I'll have to caveat that by saying this certainly isn't all projects. This certainly isn't sort of the vast majority of projects, but UST grew, frankly, a little bit too fast without focusing on that resiliency, which is what ended up catching it. So I think that's a little bit of long term, what we'll see happening as a result of this.
So I kind of want to ask Christine's question in a bit of a different way, and that's this. You said you're market neutral. Did you find problems in offsetting your market neutral position, your positions during this kind of quick move down in UST and Luna. Do you think that did it have any actual impact on you guys as the prices were collapsing that you maybe didn't necessarily foresee? Obviously, a few people did, or else they would have all been rich. But do you think that did you find yourself, I don't want to say caught with your, but you fill in the blank.
You don't have to finish that, but no, totally get what you're saying. To be honest, we've trained our algorithms to actually make sure that we can deal very well with these edge cases. So in times like this, we actually, frankly, take advantage of these mispricing opportunities and end up actually generating outsized returns. So we certainly can't pretend that we saw this coming, but it certainly was something that we have trained our algorithms to deal with very well.
So Arpan, what's the strategy in investing in alts or in Bitcoin in this kind of uncertain, volatile market?
That really is the $1 million question, isn't it? So I think that there's two ways to look at it, right? Which is, one, as an outside retail investor, what do you want to do in this space? And I think the second is, as a project, how do you want to deal with kind of be it a new normal or something like that? So to be honest, as an investor, and again, speaking personally, don't take this as investment advice, I would wait for the markets to cool down a little bit before understanding exactly what direction they're going to move into, just because there's so much macroeconomic factors that are completely outside of one's control. But specifically speaking for projects, I think we're seeing a lot of projects kind of hunker down, double down on building versus launching tokens. And I think that in general isn't going to necessarily be, again, long-term detrimental. As I think you've mentioned in the past, long-term will probably actually work out better because it's weeded out some of the chaff and it's allowed better projects, more resilient projects to really bubble up to the forefront.